What it is, cuckolds, it's your boy the Hater. It's Friday night, I'm outside, which must mean it's Smackdown review. Now, before we get to this Smackdown, I'm pretty sure that most people are going to be watching the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight. So I'm sure that the viewership of Smackdown is going to be nearly zero. That being said, it's good because this was one of the worst episodes of wrestling of all time, and definitely one of the worst episodes of Smackdown of all time as a consequence. So, as we tend to do on this channel, let's review everything segment by segment. The show starts out with the cuckster himself coming out, not even wearing a suit. So I'm thinking maybe this guy's going to have a match. Instead, he calls out Cody Owens, but Nick Aldis comes out. Aldis is much larger than Cody Rhodes, which makes Cody Rhodes look like a cuck. He basically tells Cody that Kevin crossed the line for some reason because he pile drove Randy Orton, and that as a result, he's not here. Nobody is reacting at all to Cody Rhodes' promo. The crowd was basically silent for most of the show. Nobody gave a flying fuck. And basically, Nick Aldis is saying that we need to handle this internally. All of a sudden, we're supposed to care about Randy Orton, who would go around punting people in the head and taking them out for years at a time, or months at a time, more likely, right? So whatever, right? I don't care about him, I don't care about Cody, and I don't care about Nick Aldis. Basically, absolutely nothing happens in this first segment other than the fact that Cody Rhodes is upset that Randy Orton got hurt. We already knew this by Cody Rhodes getting in the ambulance. So there's no need for this at all. Cody Rhodes continues his long streak of doing fuck all and being one of the worst wrestlers at this point of all time. Next up, we have Bayley versus Candice LeRae versus B-Fab, right? The winner of this triple threat moves on to another triple threat, right? And there's 3 more triple threats that are going to lead to 2 triple threats that are going to lead to 2 people who will then wrestle for the United States title. I don't understand why every tournament has to be triple threats. Either hire a few more people or do like singles matches, right? Doesn't make any sense. This is a singles title. Why is everything that has to be like earned done in a triple threat? You know, what about if some wrestler is only good at singles matches? Right? Why should this person not get an opportunity? Anyways, whatever. Obviously, Bayley wins. B-Fab and Candice LeRae have had a combined, 3 matches this year on TV. You know? I think this is B-Fab's first match on TV in years, maybe ever. I'm not even joking. You know what I mean? B-Fab has been there for years and done fuck all. So, whatever. It is what it is. Bayley obviously wins. She rolls up B-Fab and wins. Nobody cares at all. Finally, we get a good segment. LA Knight, yeah, comes out and it's massively over, right? The fans are reacting to his entrance music, the fans are reacting to him, and they're reacting to his promo, right? Basically, LA Knight, unlike everybody else in wrestling, doesn't suck ass, and he says he's doing the LA Knight US Open Challenge, right? The music of Legado del Fantasma comes out, so we know we're in for absolutely nothing, right? Basically, Santos Escobar comes out, cuts one of the worst promos in the history of promos, and LA Knight says, been there, done that, I beat you, right? And he says that Berto has been looking at him all funny, so he's going to give Berto a chance and give him a hard 3 the hard way, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and then he also says that, the only person that should call him daddy is Elektra Lopez. So basically, all that shit goes down. Berto versus LA Knight. The match is whatever. Berto has absolutely no chance of winning. I think Berto has won 1 match in the last 6 years. Remember when this guy was drafted in the first round a few years ago by Monday Night Raw, and everyone pretended that this guy reminded them of Eddie Guerrero? A very common theme, as we've seen. Sammy Guevara reminds us of Eddie Guerrero. Berto reminds us of Eddie Guerrero. Angel Garza reminds us of Eddie Guerrero. Everybody reminds us of Eddie Guerrero if they're even remotely Hispanic, even though all of these guys are complete and absolute jobbers who could not lace up 1 shoelace of Eddie Guerrero's boot. Get the fuck out of here with this nonsense, right? LA Knight hits the Megastar Elbow, which is a great name for the move, hits the BFT, and pins this jabroni out of here, right? Legado del Fantasma doesn't care enough to to go attack him. So while LA Knight is celebrating, Nakamura comes out for the first time in about 3 years, right? Another jobber that's never going to amount to anything. But he is dressed pretty cool. He's dressed like a samurai, kind of, right? But not in a goofy way. It was actually kind of interesting. He comes in, does this weird back elbow thing, which looks really dumb because he's wearing these baggy clothes. Then he does the Kinshasa, and that's it. I mean, it is what it is. He's the next guy. LA Knight's going to take care of this jobber immediately. Maybe they'll wrestle Survivor Series. At some point, Sami Zayn and the Usos are still looking for a fifth member. This is becoming ridiculous at this point, right? Sami Zayn goes and asks LA Knight. At the beginning of the promo, LA Knight says that he has no interest in this, and that according to him, if the two bloodlines destroy each other, that's good for him, right? Which is a great thing that a wrestler would say. A wrestler like LA Knight would say, like, I don't care at all. You know what I mean? Why would anyone volunteer for this? It's really stupid, honestly. Sami Zayn going around and asking people, like, why would you ask LA Knight? He's the U.S. champion. Why would he volunteer to wrestle 5 guys that he doesn't have a problem with? Why? For what reason? To help Roman Reigns out, who screwed him out of the WWE title? He doesn't give a fuck. And because LA Knight is a consistent character, he says, I don't care at all, right? It's not this, like, you shouldn't do it either, Sammy, right? He doesn't care. LA Knight doesn't care. He's not like Seth Rollins, who comes out dressed as Maleficent, looking like Stephanie Vaquer from NXT. You know what I mean? He's not that guy. He just comes out and he says, I don't give a flying fuck about the Bloodline. The Bloodline's boring, right? And LA Knight is massively over. As far as I'm concerned, this is the only time in WWE history where the mid-card title just means more than the world title because LA Knight is 100 times better than Cody Rhodes. It's not even close. The fact that they chose to give it to Cody Rhodes is really stupid in my opinion. And then there we have it. LA Knight is better than Cody in every metric. Next up, we have the Bloodline segment, right? Basically, Sami Zayn and the Usos go to the dressing room and they tell Roman Reigns they don't have a fifth guy, right? Roman Reigns is just sitting there. He's clearly the leader, right? And they're reporting to him. The whole point, the whole idea of these people being equals is completely done. They go and report to Roman Reigns like henchmen. Jey Uso, his entire independent is just me Us thing, is done now. He is a lackey once again. He and Jimmy Uso, along with Sami Zayn, have reverted back to their primary status. Lackey bitch boy, all right? So the lackey bitch boys tell Roman Reigns, you got to do some Us. And then Jey Uso says, look, man, he does this like fidgety thing that he does. He's like, look, man, he's like, you got to make that phone call, right? And I'm like, all right, whatever, who the fuck cares? Obviously, he's talking about Paul Heyman, but it doesn't matter. What happens then is as they're in backstage, this is really weird. They're backstage, and the other bloodline comes out in the ring. So the OG bloodline comes out to challenge them, right? They get in the ring, they start brawling. A fifth man appears for the other bloodline, for the new bloodline, right? And it's none other than Bronson Reed. This is a great brawl. Bronson Reed is really good at brawls. He's a believable big guy, obviously. And the Tsunami, you know how Gunther has the worst splash of all time? The Tsunami is one of the best splashes of all time. There's a little bit of oomph that he adds to it because he doesn't climb the top turnbuckle with both legs, right? He puts one foot on the top turnbuckle and then he uses the other foot from the middle rope kind of thing to propel himself and then kind of jumps, but he lands always very convincingly. The Tsunami is just an excellent finishing move for Bronson Reed, right? I understand it's no different than any other big guy doing a top rope move, but it's a very good splash. Bronson Reed looks like the Samoans, even though he obviously isn't. He's from Australia. He's probably part indigenous Australian, if anything, but he might be a Polynesian. Who the fuck knows, right? He looks the part and he fits the group in terms of his character, right? The new bloodline is all about beating people up, and Bronson Reed is all about beating people up. But now, the answer has been found. Obviously, the fifth guy for the bloodline is Seth Rollins, right? This writes itself. And honestly, Sol Sikoa is a retard because he picked a guy that is having an ongoing feud with a top guy on Raw, Seth Rollins, right? He's also having a feud with Braun Strowman. So any one of those guys can come in and now join Roman Reigns. Obviously, Seth Rollins will. And I was thinking, how great would it be if Dean Ambrose was still in the company and they could just have Roman Reigns, right? The Shield and the Usos. And you wouldn't need Sami Zayn, you know what I mean? It's his cousins and his brothers, you know what I mean, in the Shield. That would have been nice, but they don't have that anymore. So it is what it is. Now, with all that being said, this Bloodline Civil War has now lost all credibility. At this point, it's Roman Reigns and the Usos versus Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. And those 5 people are actually part of the Bloodline, right? And they're actually Samoans. And everybody else is an other, right? You got 2 Tongans in there for no reason. You got Bronson Reed for no reason. You have Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins. You got all the characters. You got a white dude. You got an Arab. You got a few Samoans, a few Tongans. You got everybody. This is no longer what it was supposed to be. You didn't need the 5th men. If the 5th men are going to end up being Bronson Reed, which seems to be the case, and Seth Rollins, which seems to be the case, then there's no point in this whatsoever. You should have just done a 4-on-4 and then had a match. Seth Rollins versus Bronson Reed, which we've seen before and nobody wants to see again. But nevertheless, it's a better decision than just adding these people to the War Games match. It makes no sense whatsoever. It is just as intelligent as like basically the Usos and Sami Zayn are looking for a partner and they come across Pete Dunne. And they're like, hey, Pete Dunne, why don't you join our thing? And then Sheamus ends up joining like the new Bloodline. You know what I mean? Or vice versa, I suppose, right? It would be like, oh, well, one of them, The Miz, has joined the new Bloodline, so we're going to get Uncle Howdy to even the odds. Like, just because 2 other people happen to be in a feud doesn't mean you can just plug them into this, like, basically 4-year storyline at this point. The culmination of the storyline could be that Bronson Reed beats Seth Rollins. Imagine if that happens. Like, obviously it won't, but imagine if that happens. Obviously the match is going to end with Roman Reigns pinning Solo Sikoa. But imagine if Bronson Reed does a tsunami from the top of the cage, which I think is a must at this point, somehow, right? And he just pins Seth Rollins. And then Solo Sikoa is like, I'm the tribal chief because Bronson Reed pinned Seth Rollins. Like, think about how stupid that is. This is how dumb the Triple H era is. This is why tomorrow we're going to get the mega rant of the century, the Triple H mega rant. More mega rants coming your way, cucks. Anyways, the segment, other than everything that I just said, was decent. But it was stupid for all the implications and everything that I just said right now, including the situation of Seth Rollins pinning Bronson Reed or vice versa, and that ending the War Games. Like, just imagine that. Imagine how stupid that would be. Roman Reigns comes in 5th, and then Seth Rollins does a stomp on Bronson Reed, pins him. Yeah? Well, that's the end. That's the Bloodline Civil War was settled when Seth Rollins did a curb stomp on Bronson Reed, the jobber. Who like, I know that Bronson Reed's getting a push, but he really isn't because he's lost all his matches. Let's not forget, it matters if you win matches. Yeah, he's good at attacking people, but then when it's time to fight them one-on-one, he gets his ass beat. So I'm not impressed by him very much, cucks. Anyways, that happens. The Street Profits come out to virtually no reaction. Michael Cole buries them by basically saying they've been jobbers for 4 years. They haven't had the titles for 4 years. The entire situation of them hanging out with Bobby Lashley was a colossal disaster. That was a stupid-ass stable. The Street Profits don't fit in there at all because they're a comedy tag team. They're a comedy tag team who they tried to make serious, and I think they were heels for a little bit. I'm not sure, to be honest. But the fact of the matter is, this just reminded your boy of the time when everyone thought that Montez Ford was going to be a massive single stars. I'm trying not to laugh right now. People are saying the same thing now about Ethan Page and Obafemi. And it's like, when will you people learn that the hater is always right about these things? It's not like I'm right some of the times or once in a while. I am always right about these things, right? People were saying Montez Ford is going to be a massive star in a year. 4 years later, the Street Profits are upset at their booking. You know what I mean? And why wouldn't they be? I completely understand. They're being booked as complete jobbers. But that is because they are complete jobbers. Now, I will say, Montez Ford especially deserves a bit more. He deserves a bit more. It would be okay for Montez Ford to have like a Pete Dunne role, right? He's below the card compared to Pete Dunne. Think about that for a second. He should have a Pete Dunne role, a Ludwig Kaiser role, a role where he does wrestle consistently on TV, but loses nearly every match. That should be his role, and maybe from that, he can pull off like one, mid-card title run, right? That's like a month or something like that. That's his role. He can be someone that feuds with Chad Gable, you know what I mean? That's like his level, right? Whereas Angelo Dawkins, who is an anchor holding down Montez Ford, should have been released like about 10 years ago. When he was teaming with like Sawyer Fulton before Sanity, he should have been released. This guy adds nothing, you know? I'm sure he's a believable guy in real life, like he's a tough guy in real life, because I think he has some like not combat experience, I think he's like a football player or something. But he's clearly a big, strong guy, but he's boring. He sucks. So, that's what I gotta say about that. The Street Profits are gonna be going up against the Motor City Machine Guns. The Motor City Machine Guns have a theme song that is designed to get the fans chanting, right? It's like, fists up, boom, boom. Like there's like two little gunshot noises. Fist up or hands up or whatever. Boom, boom, right? Obviously they come out to this theme song. Nobody gives a flying fuck. Let's be honest. This is not the time for the Motor City Machine Guns. Alex Shelley has a haircut where half of his hair is long and the other is bald. This is not gonna get over at this juncture of wrestling, right? Chris Sabin is as generic as they get. You know, he was always like that, but now he's especially generic. You know, when Johnny Gargano came out, I didn't even see him, because Johnny Gargano came out eventually. Michael Cole was like, Gargano's out here. I'm like, no, that's Alex Shelley. Then I realized, oh, he's talking about the guy in the suit. But because they're all jobbers, like nobody would ever know, right? I will give credit to the Motor City Machine Guns for wrestling like 4 weeks in a row, but the allure is already gone. Like the experiment has failed. Like this will be their run, and after this, they're gonna be in a pretty deadly role. They're not gonna be this tag team that is gonna stick around and be like in championship contention. Absolutely not. The match ends when Tommaso Ciampa, who I'm starting to like, comes in and basically Bronson Reeds everybody. He starts beating everybody up. Johnny Gargano comes out, tries to play peacekeeper. Tommaso Ciampa pushes Gargano down, and Gargano acts like he's surprised for some reason. Tommaso Ciampa has turned on this guy like 8 times, but for some reason, Gargano is still surprised. Gargano must be retarded, because every time something happens to him, he's like, why did that happen? It's like, dude, because you're letting it happen. It's like, the only character worse is, in this regard, is Rey Mysterio, who I love. Obviously one of my favorites. You know, one of you has been asking for 25 reasons for Mysterio rules. I'm gonna get to it eventually. Maybe after the Haters Next reboot. But Rey Mysterio, like, he gets betrayed by literally every partner. Like, Rey Mysterio has never been in an alliance in the history of wrestling where the other guy hasn't betrayed him. Like, every single time. Guerrero, Chavo Guerrero, his own son, the Santos Escobar, right? Everybody just betrays Rey Mysterio. Batista, and he's always surprised. He's like, why are people betraying me? It's like, dude, like, because you're always a face. But anyways, Dawkins ends up punching Alex Shelley because Shelley and Sabin are apologizing, saying they had nothing to do with this, right? And then Corey Graves tells us it's understandable that Angelo Dawkins did this. No, it isn't. It absolutely is not. Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin didn't do anything to him. They were in a match. Go punch Tommaso Ciampa. He's the one who beat your ass. But anyways, that's what happened. Nobody gave a flying fuck. Neither of these teams are over. And maybe Tommaso Ciampa has an opportunity to get a little bit over, but he probably won't either, right? The Street Profits at this point are done. It's over, motherfucks. There is no need for these guys to have a job in WWE anymore. Now, the hater doesn't want people to be unemployed, but this is just a fact. The fact is, it's time for them to go. It's time to go, motherfucks. It's never gonna happen for Montez Ford. He's like 34 now. He's 34, and in 4 years, he hasn't won anything. He's done nothing in 4 years. So his like prime years in wrestling are gone being a jobber. So what is he gonna get a chance when he's 40? Absolutely not. Obviously, Angelo Dawkins just, I mean, I don't care what this guy does. This guy just needs to go because he's just not good. But anyways, the point is, Street Profits are dissatisfied with their booking. Who could blame them? They're complete jobbers. But the haters saw it all along. The main event this week is Naomi versus Nia Jax. In this week's Who Gives a Rat's Ass match, right? Nobody cares about this match at all. But I will say this, the match was entertaining, right? Now here's the thing. Before the match, Bayley goes to Naomi and says, I got your back. Then Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill condescendingly say, we don't need you, we got her back, boo, right? Some shit like that. It was really weird, but they're playing up this weird thing where Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair are like their faces, but backstage they act like heels. It's very weird. They're very condescending to everybody. right? They're just very, very condescending. It's like Bayley's offering help. They're like, yeah, girl, we don't need you. We're going to snatch and pull, whatever. They have like, they're trying to get this like catchphrase over, but like the combined charisma of Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill is like nearly zero at this point. So like, who cares? You know? But like, they're always condescending to them, to Io Shirai and the other one. You know what I mean? And it's like, it doesn't fit them at all because they're faces. But basically, they fail completely at helping Naomi because they get their asses beat by Raquel Rodriguez or Raquel Gonzalez. I never learned her name because it used to be one and they changed it, but I don't remember which one she had first. And Liv Morgan, right? The two of them beat them up backstage. It was okay, right? So now, Naomi's on her own. Bayley comes to help. She gets neutralized by Candice LeRae eventually. Tiffany Stratton gets involved. But the match itself was decent. Now here's the thing. Anybody who's not an idiot knows that Naomi has no chance here, right? Triple H era, very predictable, right? But it felt like she almost could do it. You know, they booked it in a way where you were starting to think like, okay, there's like a 0.0001%, right? But it's almost zero. Like you'd bet your life that she's not winning, but they're booking it like she has a chance, right? Which I like. I like when they do that, right? Nia Jax is carrying the women's division along with Liv Morgan. They are good champions. Liv Morgan is an excellent champion. Nia Jax is an even better champion in my opinion, especially compared to Bayley who had it before. Nia Jax is like always wrestling. She's always doing shit. She's entertaining. She's got cool moves. Nia Jax is very underrated, honestly. But anyways, at least this new iteration of Nia Jax. The match ends with Nia Jax does a top rope Samoan drop and hits the Annihilator and pins Naomi. And that's the end of that. Or so we think. The show ain't over yet, cucks. At the very last moment, they show Roman Reigns beaten and bruised, basically. Backstage, he gets his phone and he says, call the wise man. The fans go a little bit crazy, and then the phone rings, but it doesn't ring because he gets one of those, automated messages saying, like, this number is no longer in service, right? And it's like, first of all, why is the whole world hearing this, right? Why is the audio of the phone being blasted through the entire, like, fucking, arena? That's just like a very bad way to like book this segment, right? But it's like, what's the point of Paul Heyman? Presumably, he wants Paul Heyman there so Paul Heyman can give him advice. But I can just tell you what's going to happen, Roman. You don't need Paul Heyman. It's going to be Seth Rollins. That's going to be your fifth man, so stop wasting everyone's time. As a result of everything that I just mentioned, this SmackDown gets a solid 0 out of 10. Complete and utter garbage. Complete shit. Now, if you'll excuse me,